Today we are going to be discussing 3 different guitars that should be an absolute lock-in to release in 2024. These 3 guitars I'm sure you guys are just as excited to see release and hopefully get your hands on and maybe add one or multiple of these to your collections because all 3 of these guitars have been highly requested by the fans. So 2024 is looking like it's going to be a really great year if you're a Foo Fighters Dave Grohl fan, if you're a John Frusciante fan, and a John Mayer fan with these 3 guitars. So let's start off with the guitar that I am actually the most excited to see release, and it is the Epiphone Dave Grohl 335. Now, Mark Agnesi posted this shot you're seeing on your screen right now to his Instagram, and if you just took a quick glance at it, you would think that there was nothing out of the ordinary, but looking at the headstock, it actually said Epiphone on the Dave Grohl 335 that Dave was holding. Then, when this image was actually colorized, it ended up being a gold version of Dave's signature guitar. So a lot of people started thinking, oh wow, we might be getting a gold version in the Epiphone format of the 335. Fast forward to later in 2023 at Austin City Limits when the Foo Fighters performed, and you actually saw Dave play quite a few songs with the Pale and Blue version of the Epiphone 335, which at that point kind of made it very real, I think, for a lot of people actually seeing Dave playing what we can only assume was a prototype of the Epiphone DG335. Now, the fact that we had Dave actually playing one live means I think we're very close to seeing an actual, finalized product released to the public sometime this year. I think that makes the most sense now. Kind of late in the year, we saw Dave testing what is, again, assume a prototype. Now we're probably going to see this guitar actually released this year. And I think for a lot of people, this is very exciting because when the original run of those Dave Grohl 335s released, the Gibson versions, they were certainly not what you would call cheap. And now on the resale collector's market, they're pretty much absolutely unobtainium at this point. They're just absurd, the prices these guitars are going for. So getting another production run of a more affordable version in an Epiphone model is going to be something I think a lot of Foo Fighters fans have been waiting for well over a decade at this point. Looking at the prototype version of the Epiphone DG335, one thing that I think is really cool, just due to the virtue of the design of Dave's signature guitar, is that when it comes to Epiphone guitars, as you guys know, a lot of them normally don't have the exact same headstock as Gibson guitars, like the Les Pauls, for example, right? They just have a bit of a different headstock, and for a lot of people, that's a turnoff. When you see that Epiphone style headstock, it just isn't the same as the Gibson model, and a lot of people I know really don't like that. However, because Dave's signature guitar has a Firebird headstock, you actually get the exact same headstock, and the only difference is it says Epiphone rather than Gibson. So that is another plus when it comes to this guitar. I think a lot of people are going to be really excited about that fact as well. I'm just curious now, the only thing is I'm pretty sure we'll get a Pale and Blue version releasing. The original prototype that we saw in Dave's hands in that photo that Mark Agnesi posted was gold, so maybe we'll see 2 colors releasing for the Epiphone model, but that guitar I think is pretty much a guarantee that we'll see release in 2024, and let me know in the comments down below if you're going to be picking one of those up. I personally am hoping that the Epiphone releasing might mean that we get a Gibson level run of these guitars as well, if Dave's been working with Gibson again to develop his Epiphone version of the signature guitar. Maybe we'll get an all-white version of his Gibson model. I think that'd be really cool. Though that said, I thought maybe with the release of their last album, it would maybe release around then and coincide with the release and come out at a bit of a maybe proper time. But with Dave playing this guitar for a while now, the all-white one, maybe we'll see a Gibson one release as well, because if a Gibson Dave Grohl 335 releases in all-white, I will for sure be picking that one up. Alright, our second guitar is the John Frusciante signature Stratocaster. This is another guitar that Red Hot Chili Peppers fans, John Frusciante fans have been asking for really since the early 2000s, and the talk kind of back then, as far as I understand it, is that Fender was in talks with John to maybe do one, but he wasn't really interested in doing a signature model guitar at the time. However, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, we've seen John playing what is a replica of his 1962 Stratocaster, and if you're going to do a signature John Frusciante guitar, it would be a version of his 62 Strat. That's what it would be. Now, on the Limited Love Return of the Dream Canteen tour, we've seen John playing this replica of his guitar, and originally some people were wondering, oh, is this just a guitar that he got built so that he didn't have to play his actual 62 a lot, and he just had a replica that he could play live if the guitar was starting to age a little bit poorly or get a little bit unplayable. But I think just by virtue of the way the guitar looked, from day one, I was one of the few people I think who was saying this has to be a signature model because it doesn't look like something that was coming out from the Fender custom shop. The Reliquary, you could tell, just wasn't that level. It wasn't just that finely detailed, and it was very clearly something that was done by a manufacturer, by like Fender. It wasn't just natural Reliquary. It wasn't just a guitar that John happened to buy that was vintage or that relic, very similar to the 62 Stratocaster. It was too close in the details to be anything but a replica. And of course, then the Mike McCready Stratocaster came out in late 2023, and I think for a lot of people that pretty much meant that, okay, a John Frusciante signature Stratocaster is very possible at this point because we're getting this made in Mexico version of Mike McCready's Strat. And the Reliquary, it looks very similar to the degree that it's done, if that makes sense. The John Frusciante's replica guitar that we've seen lots of images now of him playing, the Reliquary looks very much in line with the Mike McCready Strat's level from the Made in Mexico kind of Reliquary that you would get. Now, as far as the details for a potential John Frusciante signature Stratocaster, which I really do genuinely believe that we are going to see come out at some point this year, a price tag I'd expect to be just identical to the Mike McCready at about $1,900. Features of being a alder body with a road-worn lacquer finish, which is going to be really great with the relicking that they've done to it. And the other thing that could be really awesome is some specialized John Frusciante pickups that are designed for this guitar. So some unique pickups to go with this guitar as well, which I think will be one of the special things about it, because while John's guitar is a 62 Stratocaster, and you could really get any 62 Strat-inspired guitar that's sunburst, and you pretty much have a John Frusciante signature Strat at that point, getting some more unique pickups that were designed specifically for this guitar could be a really great selling point. And of course, the guitar just being relic to look like John's Strat as well. But this is another guitar that I think at this point we've seen him playing a lot. It's the only thing that makes sense. It being a kind of prototype or pre-production model of his upcoming signature Stratocaster. I personally don't think John's the kind of person who would ever get a relic copy of his signature, or like his 62 Strat, you guys know what I'm saying. I don't think John's the kind of person who would ever get one to then play that guitar live and not use his 62. I feel like if the 62 really had become unplayable, John would just go out and get another vintage Strat that he really liked and then started playing that live instead. And we've already seen him starting to play a few different Strats now in the past couple of years on tour. So it's possible that the 62 might starting to be getting old and a little bit tired, but I just think this really is a pre-production prototype that we've been seeing John playing in all these promotional images as well. So I think that's what we're going to see in 2024. Okay, our third and final guitar is one that I think at least a lot of you guys who are subscribed to my YouTube channel are probably the most excited to see come out. And it is a PRS Silver Sky in that beautiful matte black kind of charcoal finish that we've seen John been playing on the Sob Rock Tour as well as during the solo tour. Actually, before I get into that, okay, sorry about that, guys. I was getting so warm wearing that hoodie, and I'm just way more comfortable wearing this nice t-shirt. You know, it's kind of in a cool, faded, washed out black colorway, actually. It's from Alphalate. I really like it a lot. Anyways, this charcoal Silver Sky, again, I think is another guitar that is everything but a guarantee for 2024 here. When you think of the other kind of main color finish Silver Skies that we've seen John playing being Mock Sand, the Satin Mock Sand, and also the Roxy Pink, all of those colors have actually released at some point later. We've seen John playing the Mock Sand Silver Skies for a very long time, then sure enough, they release. Same thing with Roxy Pink. We see that as kind of the promotional guitar for a lot of the Sob Rock stuff, and then it releases. So this charcoal colorway, I think, is just going to follow that same trend. At least up until this point, we haven't had a guitar, a Silver Sky, that's been finished in a unique color that hasn't released to the public. We haven't had one of those colors where John's actually never released it yet. Sure, there's been guitars like the Shadow prototype, for example, but that was a very one-off thing. Never a finish on a Silver Sky that John's played more than a couple of shows we haven't seen release at least. Even the all-white Silver Sky only was played a couple of shows and then never released. So it would be weird at this point, an off trend, to see a Silver Sky finish that John's played for really 2 tours now that wouldn't get released to us. So just following that trend, I think that's why this guitar is just an absolute guarantee to come out. I'd be very shocked at this point if it didn't come out. Hopefully, maybe some updates to the specifications as well. Possibly, we know the Silver Sky's kind of had some tweaks here and there over the years, maybe some slightly different pickups as well, but I'm really excited to see this guitar, and I think it really is one of the best finishes on a Silver Sky ever, and I think you guys can all agree with me on that one. I think for a lot of you guys, ever since we saw John bring out the charcoal finish Silver Sky at the Palladium show, that very first kind of opening night of the Sob Rock Tour, that's a guitar a lot of us have been really dying for, and I was super excited to hopefully see this guitar release as well. So I think a lot of you guys will be probably picking this up if it releases, and if you will be, let me know again in the comments down below if this is a Silver Sky you've been waiting for and kind of hoping releases, or if it's going to be another Silver Sky you add to your collection. Let me know in the comments down below. It'd be really interesting to see how many of you guys actually plan on picking this guitar up, if it, of course, in fact releases. But all three of these guitars, like I've said, there's a lot of evidence to at least highly suggest and hope that they release, at least in my opinion. No, I think there's enough evidence here to see all three of these guitars releasing probably sometime this year. And just the fact that we have a new year now, these are three guitars I'm just really excited to see you guys get your hands on, guitars that a lot of people have really been wanting, and it's just exciting to have a lot of cool things to look forward to this year. So you guys, thanks so much for sticking to the end of this video. If you made it all the way to the end, again, let me know if you plan on picking any of these guitars up in the comments down below. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you on the next video.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.